In this segment, I'd like to describe the target tense aspect mood rules a bit more. In the previous segment, I described how to use them for target tense, and in this segment, I'll describe how to use them to set aspect. We're here at verbs 1-5, which produces John finished walking, and if we rest the cursor here, we'll see that aspect is completive, but the target aspect is still unspecified. So let's open up our target tense aspect mood rules, and we added these rows in the previous segment. In this segment, we'll add some rows for aspect. But first, I'd like to show you, if we open our dialog that shows all the various syntactic categories with their features, and we go to verbs. For target tense and form, we had to define values that are relevant for our language. We defined the relevant tenses, and we defined the relevant forms. For target aspect, you don't need to do that. There were some values defined for you when you created your target language database. And these are the same values that are used in the semantic representations, because you'll probably need these values: inceptive, completive, cessative, continuative, etc. And you can add additional values if your language has other types of aspect. And the same is true for mood. Some values are defined for you. These are the same values that are used in the semantic representations. You can change these names if you'd like. You can add additional values if you'd like, but these values are predefined for you. So let's add some rows that will handle various types of aspect. Let's add a row for inceptive aspect. So if aspect is inceptive, we want to set target aspect to inceptive. If it's completive, we want target aspect to be completive. If it's cessative, we want that to be cessative. If it's continuative, we want that to be continuative. That's enough for now. Let's save this. And now if we rest our cursor here, we see that target tense and target aspect is completive. And the last row in the pop-up shows us that target aspect was changed from unspecified to completive by the transfer grammar tense aspect mood rules, row 6. Now we need to add some rules that will look at the feature called target aspect and add an aspectual auxiliary. So let's add a new group for aspect. Add aspectual auxiliaries. Let's make this a table rule, and it will add words. If target aspect is inceptive, we'll say started. We want all of these to apply only if target tense and form is past. So I specify that feature up in this corner. And then here we say inceptive. Let's add a column. If it's completive, we'll say finished. If it's cessative, we'll say stopped. Continuative, continued, and we want to say, for example, John finished walking. So we want to use the participle form of the verb. So this rule will select the participle form of whatever verb is in the proposition, and then add this aspectual auxiliary. Let's say aspect. You've just entered a new constituent into verb phrases called aspectual auxiliary. Do you want to edit your first verb phrase structure rule? Let's say yes. You put it there at the beginning. There's an example when we click on it. We'll leave it there. So if we generate this first now, John finished walking. We'll save that. this is aspect is inceptive. So in other words, John started walking. Let's generate this first. John started walking. This is John stopped walking. So aspect is cessative, and we see that target aspect is also cessative. John stopped walking. Aspect is continuative. So we'll see John continued walking. John continued walking. Let's save it. Now here, aspect is nomic, and our target aspect is unspecified. Let's go back to our target tense aspect mood rules. Let's add a row. When aspect is nomic, target aspect will be unmarked, and we want target tense and form to be present tense. So target aspect is unmarked, target tense and form is present. Nomic means it's always true, like oil floats on water, the sun rises in the east. In English we use just present tense. John walks. So that illustrates how to use these rules for target aspect. You can do the exact same thing with mood. Whatever mood is specified in the semantic representations, set target mood to the same thing. Now you may still be wondering, why should you use these rules? So far there's only been one good example of why to use these, and that's row 4. Let's look at another one. If we go to clauses 190, which is an imperative, this produces read a book. And if we put the cursors here, it says time is future. Initially, the time value was immediate future, so this is saying read a book right now. But in English, we just say read a book. If we generate this verse right now, the subject, John, was deleted. In a previous segment, we wrote a movement rule that deletes the agent NPs for all imperatives. But we still get this tense auxiliary. So let's go back to our target tense aspect mood rules, and we'll add a row. We have a column for illocutionary force already, so let's add a row. When illocutionary force is an imperative, we just want present tense. Actually, let's use a bare stem infinitive. And now we need to write a rule for verbs that when the feature is bare stem infinitive, just select the stem from the lexicon. This will be a form selection rule. So when verb target tense and form is bare stem infinitive, we'll select the stem from the dictionary. Okay, now if we generate this verse, we see read a book. So that illustrates some of the capabilities of these rules. In general, you set up your table with various combinations of time and aspect and mood and other features that are relevant to your language, like illocutionary force, adverbial clause type, etc. And then for each combination of these, you set a specific target tense and form value, a target aspect value, and a target mood value. And then your subsequent rules can use these three values. It makes your grammar development much easier than if you use these values that are present in the semantic representations. And that concludes this segment.